Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong, they are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me.
Hi friends, my name is Susan Ernessy, and I want to welcome you to this session for preschool music leadership. I call it Shake, Rattle, and Drum Roll, Please. I'm so glad to spend a bit of time with you sharing about one of my favorite subjects. With an uncertain year of music time ahead, I want to address some things that should work for regular in-person music time, some form of socially distanced learning, or even at-home virtual learning experiences. I'm personally preparing for all scenarios as I plan for the approaching choir year in my own church. I love teaching music to preschoolers. As a matter of fact, my first 2 children's choirs were for preschool children, way back in high school and college. As the children's choir coordinator at my church, I intentionally assigned myself to direct the preschool group in addition to directing the older kids so that I can, 1, get to know the preschool children, 2, stay current with resources and trends, and 3, really just have a great time teaching this fun group. As you plan each week, you might want to open with a familiar song that signals teacher-led, organized learning is ready to begin. As the music begins, the children can gather together. Hello Neighbor is a great interactive welcome song to begin large group music time each week. I brought along a neighbor to help me demonstrate today.
Hello neighbor, here's a friendly wave. Hello neighbor, have a great day. Hello neighbor, let me shake your hand. Hello neighbor, have a great day. Hello neighbor, here's a high five. Hello neighbor, have a great day.
Great job. Good job. Now, obviously, that's not a great activity for socially distanced compliancy, but you could ask the children to pantomime the actions, or you could replace the actions with some others that don't involve touching or being close to another person. A friendly wave definitely still works, waving across the room. A long time ago, we had one we called cool wave, and it was kind of a low down this way, down near the hip. Thumbs up could be another one. Ask your pre-K children for some suggestions of ways that they can greet each other in the song. You could also begin your together time with the hymn you're currently teaching. Maybe you have a hymn of the month or a hymn of the semester or hymn of the year. Earlier in the video, you heard Jesus Loves Me. That one's a perfect beginning to any choir time. Jesus Loves Me is just one of those hymns every child should learn and would be a great welcome song for the beginning of the choir year. Beginning each week with something familiar provides a level of familiarity and comfort for preschoolers. Repetition is not a problem for preschool learners. They love it and will ask you for some songs, stories, and activities over and over again, as you well know. Here's some things to keep in mind as you teach preschoolers. Just some general things to remember, rule of thumb. First of all, there are the key components of teaching music. We want to include as many of those as possible each week in positive and helpful ways. So of course we want to do singing when we can, listening when we can, moving when we can, playing instruments when we can, and pre-reading music when we can. We also want to include different modes of learning. So tactile, using hands, knowing that preschoolers' fine motor skills are not fully developed. That doesn't mean you don't use them. That means you help to develop them with instruments and finger plays and so forth. We need to use visual combined with auditory, of course, and then kinesthetic, which is whole body movements. Include as many of these throughout your lesson as possible. Here's one that sometimes we forget as adults. Preschoolers are literal thinkers. When we use figurative language, like metaphors, they take that to be the truth. So if you say somebody's nutty as a fruitcake, they're going to think they're a piece of cake. So we need to be very careful to avoid figurative language and sarcasm in our discussions. Use precise words. If you want them to come to you, if you say, hop over here, they're going to hop to you. So it might be better to say, walk over here, or come to the carpet. Continually consider what is developmentally appropriate, both musically and spiritually. Here's something to keep in mind. It's happened to all of us. Preschoolers sometimes lock down emotionally. Don't take that personally. Give them emotional permission to pass on an activity or response, even if that means you are the only person in the room singing. Look for ways that makes each individual open up and share freely. Be aware of emotional triggers. Nobody wants to end choir time with a flood of tears, yours or the preschoolers. Think of the long term, not just this week or next week or the big production coming up, but what are they learning over the entire choir year? Here's a very important point to always remember. The best interest of the children supersedes the desires of the teacher or the parents. Here's a great shake, rattle, and drum roll plan. I call them rhythm buckets. Rhythm buckets are a way to corral all the instruments and props to be used in each lesson. They teach children to take responsibility for gathering and caring for learning materials. They provide individual learning stations when social distancing is required. For the preschool rhythm bucket, everything can stay in the bucket all the time, or each week can be changed out to only have the things for that night. Your youngest preschoolers probably need only what they're using for that night, and you can train your kindergartners to leave the things in there that we're not using. So the first thing you need is a bucket. This is a good size. I think this is a 5-gallon bucket. It's lightweight. I like it because it has a handle so they can easily pick it up. You could, on this side, put a strip of tape or some sort of fancy label with the child's name printed so they can read it, and then they know that that is always their bucket for every music time. It also needs to be large enough to accommodate whatever it is you're going to put into the bucket. So over time, I've collected different rhythm instruments that are appropriate for preschoolers. So here are a few that I just want to show and how they work with the bucket. This is a preschool-sized hand drum that can go in the bucket. We also want to teach them the correct names of the items. This is a hand drum, and we play it with our hands. Or, in this case, there's a soft mallet that goes with it. It all fits into the rhythm bucket. Different kinds of shakers, okay, can go in there. We call this, guess what? an egg shaker. I have several of these. They're baby rain sticks, and the kids enjoy these. They can also use them as a shaker into the rhythm bucket. You need some preschool-sized rhythm sticks. These are Lumi sticks. They have shorter ones, but I found that by the time the child puts their little fist and wraps around, there isn't much stick left to hit. So this length, which is probably 8 to 10 inches, is a good length. It has a really good sound. Various kinds of jingle bells. These are wrist bells, but instead of putting them around their wrist, they can just hold them in their hand. You have to have some sort of jingle bells for Christmas music, right? These are great. And then this is my favorite tambourine that I found over time. It's durable. It's made for lasting a long time, and it just fits in the hand of preschoolers. I actually use this with my older children as well. Very convenient. Then anything else can go in the bucket that you're going to use that night. Maybe you're going to use a streamer. Put it in the bucket. Maybe you're going to use, I've got these plates that I use. Put that in the bucket. Or a little beanie friend. We'll talk about that later. Or even a scarf or bandana. Or a stick puppet. So whatever you're going to use can go into the bucket. Don't try to overwhelm the children by teaching everything that's in the bucket the first week. So this week might be hand drum week, and so you teach them about using the hand drum, what it's called, what it looks like, and how to play it. Week 2, maybe you're going to add the rhythm sticks. I think it's very important that the children learn that these are musical instruments, not toys. We want them to care for these instruments and learn about being good stewards of the materials we have and the money we spend in our church choirs, or school choirs for that matter. If needed, you can add things each week, or you can delete them each week. It doesn't matter. If your children have a hard time with playing with the things inside the drum, the bucket drum, then put one thing per week in it, and that's all they get. You could also have one week where it's an empty bucket. Why? Because it makes a great bucket drum too, that they can play with their hands, or again with a soft kind of rubber mallet. So maybe even at the very beginning, you want to start with just an empty rhythm bucket. What happens if your preschoolers misuse the instruments or play at inappropriate times? Well, we don't want to have a flood of tears. We don't want to attack the child for something they've done, but we do want to stop the behavior. So you can have the bucket there and say, that rain stick is being very disruptive and not following the rules. Let's put the rain stick for a little time out in the bucket. Do preschoolers know what timeout means? Yes, they really do. So you just put it in there. Does it stay in there forever? No. In a minute or so, if the child is ready to have it back, then you can try again. You don't have to go through this process over and over and over again with the same child. You might have to go through the process with several children in the room. But after a few weeks of knowing this, they'll get the message. Don't give up. This is a worthwhile thing to teach the children, the proper use of the instruments and following directions. That's very, very important. Let's talk for a minute about this as an individual learning center. If you're doing this in your classroom and you want to spread them out to keep them separate, socially distanced, how are you going to do that? They're preschoolers. They like to pile on each other. Well, you can scatter about the room carpet squares, beach towels, some sort of fabric-y thing that's easy to pick up and wash, and each child is assigned a spot with their bucket in place at the spot. Or hula hoops make a great space divider. Get the larger hula hoops and assign each child to a hula hoop, and whatever they're going to use stays inside the hula hoop with them. Let's teach them responsibility to put everything in the bucket, clean up at the end of choir time, so it's ready to go and ready to clean up and put away. What about at home? What if you have to do virtual learning with the children? I've thought about this a lot, and my thought is that you could have buckets prepared for parents to come by and pick them up, check them out to take home. If that's the case, you want to think carefully about what goes in there, because some things you may never see again. That may be worth it, that they'll have that at home. Or you can use less expensive things in the bucket, and maybe even a less expensive bucket, like a sand pail or something like that. You can also do a drive-by porch drop-off. I've done a lot of that in the last several months, as probably you have too, where we drop materials off on the porch or outside the front door for children's ministry. You can also send an email or text message, or however you communicate with your parents, a list of things for them to create a bucket at home. Encourage them don't go out and buy things, but to use things around the house, like ice cream buckets or sand buckets or plastic bowls and mixing spoons. Chopsticks make great little sticks. There's always lots of stuff around the house. Empty water bottles, fill them with some rice, dry rice, or some kernels of popcorn. There's a lot of things they can do at home, and actually making the instruments is an activity to help fill the time as well for a bored preschooler. Bate Bate Chocolate is a great activity to employ that kitchen percussion. You could do this in the classroom or at home. It also helps to teach the children about tempo, as it gets faster and faster with each repetition. The words bate bate mean stir, stir. So stir, stir the chocolate.
Bate, bate, chocolate. Bate, bate, chocolate. Uno, dos, tres, cho. Uno, dos, tres, co. Uno, dos, tres, la. Uno, dos, tres, te. Bate, bate, chocolate. Bate, bate, chocolate. Bate, bate, chocolate. Bate, bate, chocolate. Uno, dos, tres, cho. Uno, dos, tres, co. Uno, dos, tres, la. Uno, dos, tres, te. Bate, bate, chocolate. Bate, bate, chocolate. Bate, bate, chocolate. Bate, bate, chocolate. Uno, dos, tres, cho. Uno, dos, tres, co. Uno, dos, tres, la. Uno, dos, tres, te. Bate, bate, chocolate. Bate, bate, chocolate.
See how much fun that could be with a mixing bowl and a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon. Even an ice cream bowl with a little plastic spoon would work. Kids will love that. Give it a try. If we were together in the same room, I would have a time right now of make and take for your preschool choir children. Since we're not together, I'm just going to show you some things that you can definitely make at home. Many of you viewing the video today probably have these tennis ball shakers. I have tennis balls without the shakers inside, just regular tennis balls that I use from time to time, but these are specially designed for shaking. They're great. They have just enough weight to fit in a preschooler's hand. They can pass from side to side to learn about keeping the steady beat. So a faster one or a slower one. It's a great little tool. In order to make it, you just get a regular old tennis ball. I use an X-Acto knife and make it just near one of the seams of the tennis ball, kind of poke a hole. Then I get one of the tiniest funnels you can buy in the kitchen department of your department store, Walmart or whatever, and stuff down in there. And then I pour in some of the little plastic soft pellets BBs in there. People always say how many. Well, I'm not going to count them, because if you're going to make them, you're going to make 20 or 30 of these at a time. You can shake it and see, well, that sounds pretty good. And then pull out the funnel, then take some super glue and run it down in that little crease where you've made the cut and hold it for 20 or 30 seconds, and voila, it's completed. People always say, well, what if they get the hole open? And I will tell you, they have to be really strong to get the BBs out. And knock on wood, I have done this for many, many years and have yet to have a child open these from preschool all the way up through high school. They really enjoy using these. This is fun. You could do this. You can have the parents make one at home for their children. Streamers are also a thing that we can make. We don't have to purchase expensive streamers. We can make those ourselves. This is a shower curtain ring. You can use other things. I've used plastic bangle bracelets, just something that's just small enough for the preschooler to wave around. And then you have your ribbon. Now, this particular ribbon is made of plastic. You buy this at your Lowe's or Home Depot or someplace like that. It's called flagger tape. And the neat thing about this is if you get the green or this kind of orangish color, that these can also glow in black light. So if you have that set up at your church and you want to do some black light activities, you can. So in order to do any of the things right now, you have to know how to do a slip knot. So you just take your ribbon and measure it about equal. I've got 2 ribbons, and then I'm going to take them the half. I'm going to slide it through, and then I'm going to bring the tails up through there. And create a ribbon streamer. Hopefully I did that right. Oh, good, I did. That they can use. Now, this may be a tad long for your preschoolers. I make them sort of this length so I can use them with any age, but you can shorten them. You could also put more streamers for lots of more movement. You could mix the colors. You can also use other kinds of ribbon. If you have people in your church that are seamstress or crafters that have leftover ribbons, you can just use any kind of ribbon. That's great, and it costs little or nothing. Those rolls of this plastic tape, I don't know how many yards are on it, but they make a lot of streamers. Another kind of streamer that I've used before is these paper plate streamers. These work really good for if you're doing choreography, that you can use plates, a color scheme, and they're also easy for a preschooler to hold with their tiny little hands. All you have to do is punch holes around the edge, and then again, remember that slip knot, you're going to fold that in half, and you're going to thread that through the little hole, pull the streamers through, and now you have a completed plate streamer. These were popular back a few years ago when we had an ocean theme for VBS, because it sort of looks like a jellyfish. But those are great and easy to make and inexpensive. A lot of times you can hunt around the house and find those similar items to make something like that. A lot has been said about making pool noodle scrapers on some of the music education Facebook groups and so forth. And so I experimented. I had made some scrapers in the past out of some pool noodles, but I tried a different way. The ones I had before cut a length of the pool noodle and then sliced it in half, so you had two halves. But then I decided that is really hard for a preschooler to hold on. So I want to give them a little more surface area, and this makes it even easier to do. So I took my electric knife. You may or may not have an electric knife. Just use one of those serrated edge knives if you don't. And you just slice right through the pool noodle. So if you look, this is about the width of my hand. And now I can take one in each hand, and now I have a cool scraper. And if you need to have the children make these at home, there are probably pool noodles out in their garage or up in their attic that are going to waste. It's a great sound. I really like this maybe as much as those sand blocks that sometimes fall apart. This is really cool. Not a lot of money and easy to make. I didn't bring the maracas that I was going to show you, but in our virtual VBS this summer, we had some materials and so forth that we dropped off on front porches, and in those buckets for that material was included some music activities, and one of the things was to make maracas from 2 plastic spoons and a plastic Easter egg. So you take the Easter egg and you fill it with whatever, rice or popcorn or whatever, tape it shut or glue it shut, and then you take 2 spoons and cup the egg in between the bowls of the 2 spoons, and then wrap duct tape around the handle, and you got a great little maracas, easy to make, and so much fun. A friend of mine has a little girl who's just over a year old, and she sent me a video of her shaking her maracas, so she enjoyed her virtual VBS time as well. There are so many different make-at-home kinds of instruments that you can find on Pinterest and other places on the internet. But, well, that was fun. I made it, but you don't get to take it. We talked earlier about personal learning centers. Ziploc bags are very helpful in creating personal learning centers. You remember the little hula hoop spot or the carpeted spot where each child was going to do their music time. This is a bag of little rhythm hearts. This is goes with that pre-reading, the pre-music reading skill we talked about way back early in the session. And in it, I used hearts. Hearts are so easy for children to understand the idea because they have discovered their heartbeat, right? And they may have even listened with a stethoscope to their heartbeat. So when they see a heart, they think beat. So in the bag, each bag, I have 2 white hearts, 2 yellow hearts, 2 orange hearts, and 2 red hearts. If you notice, those match the colors of the little bells bell sets or boomwhacker sets. So on boomwhackers, the red would be C, the orange would be D, and the yellow would be E. What about the white ones? The white ones represent silent beats. I've even put a rest on the back side of these because eventually we want them to learn the correct notation. So we can, on the back side of each of the hearts, I've put a line down the middle, so those can be to divide the beat in half. So you can have them spell out beats, just ignoring the color. The color, just tell them whatever heart, it doesn't matter. And so they could put up a set of two, and they would say beat, beat, right? Or they could play, sing. La, 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 la. Oh, now I'm getting my left and right mixed up. But anyway, so they can play them, they can say them. They could say this color. Now, is this color a one-syllable or two-syllable color? It's a one. So red, red. But yellow is a two-syllable color. So you turn it to this side. Yellow, yellow. Red, yellow. So there's a lot of interaction that you go back and forth with the children. What about this? Red, sh, red, sh. So they learn there's no sound. And then you have them turn it over and see the little squiggly line that if you turn sideways, it looks like a seagull flying. Then they know that that's a silent beat. Red, sh, red, sh. And that sometimes beats have two sounds. Yellow, sh, yellow, sh. There's lots of things you can do with those, and you can take these, if you number your sets, so this Ziploc bag has a place you can write on, so you could say this is set 1, or you put the child's name, but I would say set 1, then I would number everything in there with a 1 on it, so if they get scattered about and mixed up, you know which bag to put them in. Puppets, real and homemade, are another way for learning and expression. This is a puppet that I made a few years ago when we were doing a donkey song. And so I just found a picture of a donkey, and I glued it on both sides of this giant tongue depressor. Okay? And they can move with it, sitting still in any different way, or they can even go around the room like the old stick horse, but less clattering around than a big stick horse. But this is something you could put in a make and take bucket for your parents if you wanted to. But they love these, and they can act out stories with the, like story songs with those different kinds of puppets. Whenever you give a child a prop, an instrument, or a puppet, you need to allow for some free expression time. If you don't allow it, they're going to do it anyway. So it's good to just go ahead and get that expression out. So if you're going to give out the puppet, say, talk to each other with your puppets, or let's move around the room your puppets any way you'd like, instead of always saying, okay, walk three this way and 3 that way. Let the children have some just free expression time. Puppets can be expensive, but you can substitute other things. I have a whole collection of these different kinds of beanie animals. Some of them are beanie babies, some of them are just whatever. So like here's horse. You can use those to talk, to sing, to make out rhythm patterns with the names of the animal. One of the things I love to do is take the animal and play the drum with it. So And you could do the slower beat. You get the idea. I call these beat buddies. And we learned pretty quickly that when I pass out the basket of beat buddies, you only take one and you keep the first one you take out. If you're going to have them in the rhythm buckets, then they're going to have to take whatever is in the bucket, because chances are you don't have 15 or 20 of the exact same beat buddy. But these are excellent, and the children really enjoy them. Finger puppets are also fun. I've collected several different kinds of finger puppets. They aren't cheap. So you could, instead of finger puppets, you could just make yourself a collection of different stick puppets, like the donkey. I did this lesson several weeks ago. It was on a Zoom lesson with some my preschool Sunday school children, using these bird finger puppets. So let's see how that would work, and let me show that. This, I call it Hello Bluebird, and since I don't have an echo, the instrument is going to sing the melody, and then I will echo. Actually, my bird is going to echo. Okay, here we go. Hello, Bluebird. How are you today? Goodbye, Bluebird. It's time to fly away. I love that, because on a Zoom image, of course, the bird just disappears into, well, it was actually disappearing into my office, but it just disappears from the screen. And then you have the robin. Of course, we talk about each one. And when I did this, it was in the spring, and so there were lots of robins around. Hello, Robin. How are you today? Goodbye, Robin. It's time to fly away. And I won't do the cardinal, but the cardinal was pretty. We've had so many cardinals at our house. They like to come peek in our window. But hello, cardinal. So you could do the finger puppets, and you could have them do little stick puppets with the different birds on it. And then you could allow them to say, okay, we're going to do the whole thing again. Which bird goes first? And they say, let's do the bluebird again, or let's do the robin first. Or so you let them interact with the song story. It becomes more than just a song. It becomes a song story, and they get to have a part. You've probably been wondering about the chart behind me, so I'm going to share that with you. It's a great little pocket chart on a stand. The stand is actually out of the domestic department at Walmart. It's a laundry hanging thing, and I've used some, again, shower curtain rings, and then actually have a pocket chart on the front and a different one on the back. It's on wheels, so we can move it around. But on the chart are some patterns. Again, we're talking about pre-music reading, so we don't have quarter notes and things. So first we have a row of baby chicks, okay? And then this one we have a row of eggs. So the purpose of the first lesson might just be to talk about sound and silence. So, what are these? Sounds. What are these? Silence. We can clap these. Clap, 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 clap. But we unclap these. Shh, 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 shh. Okay? So you teach them How is this going to work with this chicken thing? So I call this little activity chicken strips because they're strips with chicken on them. And I actually keep them in a carry-out chicken box so the kids can draw them out. We're a little bit chicken crazy in my choir, so we have all kinds of rubber chickens. You've seen this one. I like to use this one as the pointer on the chart. So chick, 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 chick. Use that as the pointer. I also found that you can buy multiples. Now, you will notice you get a little back squeak on that squawking chicken, but that's okay because we're only talking about sound and silence. So if we're going to play this one, what about here? The chicken has to be silent. And then you have other patterns that include both. So they learn number one about self-control because they really want to squawk the chicken on every one of them, even on the eggs. But it's a great fun to do. Could you do other instruments? Absolutely. You could do sticks. You could do body percussion. Clap, 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 unclap. Great fun. I have lots of different animal patterns and fruit patterns and shape patterns, color patterns to use in this way long before we ever get to using notes, like quarter notes and half notes and stuff. I do introduce the quarter rest fairly early in the process so that any 4 or 5-year-old that's been in my choir knows that that's a rest. And when we rest, we're quiet, in theory. That's just gets to the beginning. I think we forget as musicians that the rests are every bit as important as the ones that have notes on them, because the sounds and silences combine to make beautiful music. You can allow the children to put the different strips up on the chart and then allow them to come up and move them in a different order. If you're doing this virtually, they can suggest to you the order of the strips. Anytime you can let them participate and interact, it's really good learning taking place. Storybooks are ways to help supplement your teaching that can be very useful. And so I have a lot of books that I use for teaching musical elements and expression, and then some books just enhance the songs that we sing. So I wanted to share a few newer ones that I've added to my collection that you might enjoy. These sort of made me laugh when I saw them. They're board books. And the first one is called The Loud Book. So in music, we want to talk about volume, right? So louder and softer. And we don't really have to teach children the loud part. But this is fun, so you can read the story. There are lots of fun things. And they're funny, silly things going on that are loud. What are things like candy wrapper loud? My pastor would appreciate that. We have candy wrappers in the service every Sunday. Spilling your marbles in the library loud. Bad crash loud, good crash loud. There's all kinds of things about loud. But if you're going to do this one, then you also have to The Quiet Book. So we talk about softer sounds and silences. So there are different kinds of quiet. This one says, thinking of a good reason you were drawing on the wall quiet, with Mom taking little baby animal out. And then hide and seek quiet. There are different ways to be quiet. These are really fun board books. This is one that will go along if you're purchasing the Keep on Singing resource from Growing in Grace. One of the songs on the Preschool CD is This Little Light of Mine. So this is actually a book, a fairly recent book, that has the text of the old This Little Light of Mine, the one that Grandma sang. And it has the words of the song, and it has a little peekaboo to find some of the rest of the things going on. I love this book. I use this I teach Sunday school music for preschool and younger children, and this is one that they have really enjoyed. I have to show you the end of it. I'm gonna spoil the ending, so spoiler alert. Close your eyes if you don't want to see. But at the very end, it has this beautiful shine picture of a cityscape. This Little Light of Mine. We do a lot of things with cute art and cartoony art, but several years ago, I discovered this beautiful book. It's All Things Bright and Beautiful. Last fall, we used this as one of our hymns, and it has beautiful illustrations using the text of the hymn as the text of the book. I think that any time you can find a book or something practical they can hold in their hands, that they can feel like, hey, I'm reading, when actually they're saying the words to the song or singing the words to the song, it really takes learning to the next level. But I love this and love the art that's in it. It's really good to stay connected with the children when you can't see them in person. Having those Zoom meetings or any way that you can stay connected. One of the things that's so great about Growing in Grace are the kid pages. So you can, if you're not going to use the kid pages as part of your instruction, you can send a copy of those home with the children. If you're doing distance learning, you can email them home to the parents to do at home. I like to create hymn memory cards for our hymn of the month. And even though the preschoolers can't read, they love having that little laminated card with the words of the hymn on it. They put it on their refrigerator. I tell them to put it on their bathroom mirror, and they brush their teeth while they sing the hymn. Kind of messy, but really a lot of fun. But ways to stay in touch with them, keeping learning going, even if we're not together. As our time together draws to a close, I want to just give you a few final important words to encourage you and help you with your coming year. First of all, it's important to get to know your pre-K children. They will not trust or willingly accept someone they do not know. So look for ways to get to know them and also allow them to get to know you. Employ the fruit of the Spirit as you teach each one. Model love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, and self-control. You can't ask this of them if you yourself don't model it. Accept the fact that pre-K children are not tiny adults. You be the adult. You be the adult. But be willing to be playful in the process. Don't forget what it was like to be a child. Respect the children. Allow times for them to share. Be willing to adapt your lesson to fit the climate of the classroom. Even toss out your plans if necessary. Stay in touch beyond the choir room. Mail birthday cards, holiday greetings, text messages to parents, and ask them to share them with the child. Children love to get physical mail. That's something they don't ordinarily get. They love that. They will treasure those notes and cards. Step outside the choir room. Volunteer to lead a preschool music time in other church ministries. Maybe it could help the Sunday school hour or Vacation Bible School, VBS, or maybe the missions education time. Whatever, the more you can put music into the hearts of preschoolers, the better. Let me just say, the greatest thing you can do as a teacher is to make each child know they are welcomed, safe, and loved by God and by you. They may not remember the lessons you teach them, but they will remember the way you made them feel. Just as you begin each week with a welcome song, you should mark the end of organized learning time with a familiar song. This song has been one of my favorite ones to close preschool choir time, and it's in the form of a prayer.
Our music time is almost done. We thank you, God, for friends and fun. But one more thing before we go. We thank you, God, for loving us so.
Thank you, friends, for the wonderful work you do with preschoolers week after week. May the year ahead be full of meaning and purposeful learning.